Joined exclusively once again by a very old friend of the show, House Majority Leader Eric Cantor, Republican from Virginia. Mr. Leader, welcome back.
Larry, good to be on.
Thank you, sir. Let me just begin. Let's talk a little business here. What do you see as the Republican message in the midterm elections coming up? And as you know, there was a big story in the Washington Post that suggested this morning that you are moving the party a little bit towards the center. What's the message going to be?
The message is that right now there's an America under Obama's policies that's not working, and that we conservatives, Republicans, are for an America that works. And the way we get there is through putting forth our conservative solutions as an alternative to the policies this president has been about that, frankly, have harmed job growth. They have put the middle class into a squeeze. They've not responded to the need for upward mobility to our citizens who are most vulnerable in this society. And, frankly, they have provided Obama's policies a health care that's not working. So we're for an America that works as conservatives, trying to pull government back, create more space for the private sector, for families, for communities, to actually work so that we can see a better future.
You've always been, down through the years, you've always been a growth guy, one of the leaders of the growth wing of the party. I want to ask you, there's a theme running through all these news stories that the GOP wants to reach out and help the middle class, more take-home pay, more jobs. Can you be specific and tell us what kind of policies you're thinking about?
Well, Larry, you and I share the passion for growth, and we are about a growing economy, a growing America for all. And if you look at it right now, what's happened is most people in the country are wage earners, and most have seen their wages become very stagnant, if not decline, of late. And what we're trying to do is to promote policies that can help that can grow paychecks. Not like the president, who insists that we need Washington telling folks and telling businesses how much they should pay their employees, but instead doing some things that take government out of the way of growing wages. The perfect example of that is Obamacare's regulation that requires one to have a 30-hour work week, not a 40-hour work week. If we could just undo that regulation and put back a 40-hour work week, we could see a 25% increase in a wage earner's check. That's what we're talking about, growing wages.
Will the Republicans campaign against the minimum wage?
We're against anything that harms job creation. And even the Congressional Budget Office says that regulation under Obamacare is depressing wages. It also says Obama's suggestion of increasing the minimum wage can harm job creation. We don't want to harm job creation. We don't have enough jobs. We also want to grow the economy and grow wages. We do that by pulling government back, providing a sensible environment of regulation so that we can see more growth in businesses, more growth in families and paychecks. That's the kind of future that we envision as conservatives, as Republicans.
Wouldn't energy really fill that bill? I mean, it seems to me energy is so pro-growth right now. It's a miracle. It's a revolution. And the whole business of LNG, liquid natural gas terminal, okay, the president apparently has approved one more for export purposes today. There's probably 1 million jobs there. If we did 25 or 30, there's probably $80,000 to $100,000 a year jobs. It's just like the shale fields up in North Dakota. Isn't that a tailor-made message for you?
It's not only a pro-jobs, pro-growth from the macroeconomic standpoint, our energy policies, maximizing our indigenous resources, but it also can help that middle-class squeeze right now, the families who are facing some of the highest home heating bills that they've ever faced. I mean, how apropos is it for us to be pushing policies that actually expand our energy supplies, that hence push down home heating costs so that working middle-class families can afford to pay the bills and continue to save for the future and invest for the future?
Will you go into November with unified positions on tax reform and changing Obamacare?
Well, we have a Republican position. We believe that this tax code is too complicated. It gets in the way of capital flowing to its most efficient use, and we could do a lot more from a growth perspective. And Chairman Dave Camp of the Ways and Means Committee has done a great job of putting together a discussion draft. It's complicated. There are a lot of trade-offs involved given the rules operate under here, and it's a discussion draft to bring in more comments, more discussion, so that we can see a better way forward for tax reform.
Why don't you just give all the middle class 15%? I get the discussion thing because I worked in Washington once upon a time, but at some point you got to fish or cut bait. Either you're going to be tax reformers or not. So why don't you just get rid of the exclusions for the upper class and give the middle-income people a huge tax cut, like no higher than a 15% rate, right across the board, maybe from $0 to $200,000, something like that, and an expanded earned income. In other words, helping after-tax take-home pay, which is what Reagan taught me. You got to do that by jamming down their taxes, don't you?
I agree with you. We have a president in the White House and a Senate that doesn't agree. We want to continue to propose those kind of pro-growth economic policies, whether it's tax policy, regulatory policy, or you speak about health care. We are, as Republicans, committed to a better way in health care, to presenting an alternative path to a better health care that keeps down costs, that allows for greater access to providers, that also deals with the challenges of those with pre-existing conditions. We can do all that in a better way that doesn't harm people's choice, a patient-centered path.
Will you have specifics? That's what everybody wants to know.
We absolutely will have specifics, and I would note, Larry, there was an alternative that Republicans put forward back in 2009 when Obamacare passed in the House. We also have several measures that have been proposed by some of our members in the House of Representatives. There's one in the Senate as well. We are going to get behind an alternative path to a better health care that lowers costs, that increases patient choice, that is patient-centered, that allows access to the doctors you want to see at a lower cost. This is our aim, and yes, we will put forward our better way of health care.
All right, last one, sir. Lot of speculation. Even today, there was a big story up on the Breitbart website, which I'm sure you saw. Let me ask you this. Is John Boehner going to run for re-election as Speaker? Are you going to back him? And is he going to win?
Larry, first of all, John Boehner has said that he is seeking re-election. I support John Boehner. I work with John Boehner every day to try and affect the kind of changes and reforms that we conservatives want to see happen here in Washington and across the country on behalf of middle working class Americans. And it is those people that we ought to bear in mind. They're not waking up in the morning necessarily thinking about which political party, which political individual in Washington is doing this or that. What they're concerned about is how they're going to make it through the month. How are they going to see a more growing economy that works for them? And that's what we Republicans are about now and will continue to work for an America that works.
So the answer is, in a word, you are standing behind Speaker Boehner.
Yes.
All right, that's great. That's Eric Cantor, Majority Leader of the House from the state of Virginia. Eric, if I may, thank you very much. You've been great to us.